92 updates.
Good morning. I'm Stacia Strand with this live news update at 8 o'clock. 35 degrees, a cloudy sky in Des Moines. A number of school delays to pass along to you weather-related. I'll run down that list. Clark Community of Osceola running 1 hour late. The following are running 2 hours late for the following schools. Fort Dodge Community Christian, 2 hours late plus no preschool at Fort Dodge Community. Southeast Webster, Stratford, Creston Schools, Webster City Community Schools, Cedar Valley and Prairie Schools running 2 hours late. Topping local news, the Iowa caucuses. Iowa Senator Tom Harkin needs a big win today to keep his bid for the presidency alive. News Center 13 will bring you another live report in just 25 minutes as we continue to cover this day of the Iowa caucuses.
Governor Jerry Brown.
The deficit will go up.
And we've also got some music for Monday morning from one of the world's great lyric sopranos, Miss Kathleen Battle. Does she defy the image, the physical image of a diva, or what?
She's teeny, isn't she?
Oh, yeah, she's a tiny little lovely lady. Yeah, really is. Great pipes, too. Back in 3B, I'm Bryant Gumbel here with Katie Kirk. We'll move to the news desk and just what?
Great pipes. It's just so incongruous to say about an opera star, great pipes.
She has a lovely voice.
That's right. Not all the candidates in the presidential race are household names. How could they be when there are about 200 of them? This morning, we'll also be hearing from some of those others. And later in the hour, a few ideas for toasting your Valentine this coming Friday. And the motto is, think pink.
Such a minefield for guys these days. What's the matter with pipes? When did that become a bad word? 8:01, on to the news desk. We're going to talk about this. Ann Curry's in for Faith Daniels. Ann?
All right, thank you, Bryant. American literature has lost one of its outstanding modern figures. Alex Haley was 70 years old. He died early today in Seattle, apparently of natural causes. Haley spent 12 years writing Roots, the book that brought him international fame and a Pulitzer Prize. He also wrote the autobiography of Malcolm X and was also the winner of a National Book Award. More details on Haley's death are to be released at a news conference later today. The first official votes in the 1992 presidential campaign will be cast tonight in Iowa. But with favorite son Tom Harkin seen as the likely winner, apathy may keep hundreds away from the caucuses. Harkin was the only leading candidate in Iowa Sunday and said a win tonight could boost his chances in the presidential campaign. Other Democratic candidates today are focusing on New Hampshire, which holds the nation's first primary a week from tomorrow. And President Bush has also had his attention turned toward New Hampshire this morning, and Jim Miklaszewski is at the White House with more on that. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Ann. President Bush is obviously hearing footsteps in the snow in New Hampshire. He surprised reporters here with a live radio interview with WGIR Radio in Manchester. He had some bad news for the middle class who may have been looking for a tax cut. He said the economy just can't take it.
It doesn't need greater deficit. It doesn't need these broad proposals to cut everybody's taxes at a time when we've got these enormous deficits.
Bush's chief of staff, Sam Skinner, said on Sunday that there would be no cut in the tax cut for the rich to pay for a middle-class tax cut. So in the radio interview, Bush also indicated that the challenge from Republican Pat Buchanan might be hurting him. He said he doesn't want to have to go after another Republican in the primary. Now, the White House was trying to get at the New Hampshire voters through the back door this morning. When we started recording it, the White House cut it off in mid-sentence. Sounds like a campaign that's worried. Ann?
All right. Thank you very much, Jim Miklaszewski at the White House. Secretary of State James Baker was on hand in Germany today as American military transport planes began airlifting food and medical supplies to the former Soviet republics. The two-week relief effort dubbed Operation Provide Hope will deliver more than 4.5 million pounds of emergency supplies to 22 cities. Included in the aid arriving today in St. Petersburg, U.S. military rations left over from the Persian Gulf War. Tens of thousands of Russians took to the streets in Moscow Sunday, some to voice their support for Russian President Boris Yeltsin, but most to denounce his march toward a free market economy. Tom Aspel reports.
Sunday's demonstrations were the largest here since the aborted coup last August. Thousands turned out against Boris Yeltsin's economic reforms. Hardline communist sympathizers, nationalists, and even anti-Semitic groups say the lifting of price controls has driven up the cost of living beyond everyone's means. And there'll be widespread poverty and hunger here in the coming months.
No reforms are possible when the country is in a state of collapse.
Yeltsin has been warning that Soviet-style totalitarianism could return here if the West doesn't back his free market reforms with financial aid and technical assistance. His own vice president, Alexander Rutskoy, says Yeltsin's policies amount to economic genocide. He's been calling for an economic state of emergency. Yeltsin supporters say the reforms need time to work, but food is becoming more expensive and more scarce as distribution systems between the new independent republics deteriorate. Foreign aid from the U.S. and from Europe won't go far in helping more than 200 million people. Western officials say more reforms are needed before they'll give more money. The danger is everyone's patience is running out. Tom Asfeld, NBC News, Moscow.
Jury deliberation in the Mike Tyson rape trial could begin as early as today. The former heavyweight boxing champ is charged with raping an 18-year-old beauty pageant contestant last July in Indianapolis. Tyson claims she consented to sex. If convicted, Tyson could get up to 60 years in prison. The Justice Department is launching an offensive against illegal immigration, concentrating on those who cross the border from Mexico into California. Border crossers have been gathering in large numbers at the frontier near San Diego and rushing across directly into oncoming traffic. Attorney General William Barr plans to hire hundreds of new agents to speed up the processing of immigration applications. He also plans to go after American employers who knowingly hire illegal aliens. It is now 5 minutes past the hour. Let's go back to Bryant and Katie.
All right, Ann, thanks so very much. We're only going to keep it here for a minute. Usually Willard starts here and then walks all the way down there, but it's such a long hike, and you got so much stuff to carry. Willard.
There's so much of me to carry, so much of Willard to carry. Forget this. Listen, I don't think that desk will hold me anymore. You're going to have to make some changes in the furniture department. But one of my favorite towns in the whole wide world is Traverse City, Michigan, and they are the cherry capital of the world. And they are saying that this is cherry month, the month of the presidents, cherry pie for George Washington. You can bake one and enjoy yourself. And check out some of the things that they have, all sorts of cherry jam and preserves and goodies. And if you ever have a chance to take a vacation, you check out Traverse City. It is fantastic. South Arlington, Vermont, 22 below zero this morning. I just talked to the weather service up there, and the guy said, get with it, Scott. Stay on the ball. 22 below zero, that's chilly. Here in New York, it's 15. Dulles Airport at Washington is about 7. Happy birthday with a Hallmark salute and an anniversary this morning. How sweet it is. Henry and Lily Coleman. He's 96, she is 92, and they have been married now for 75 years, and they live in Hayside, Virginia. Happy anniversary to you. And a birthday buddy from our Hallmark friends. Take a look again. Lola Duncan, Pendleton, Indiana, 106 years old today. One of the best stories of the morning really is some rain out in California again. Always a downside to that, and that's the chance of some mudslides later on. But look at these temperatures around the country, 41 up in Seattle. I'll tell you, it's kind of interesting. You see the cold temperatures here in the east. You got temperatures like, can you see over here, 12 below zero up in Maine. You have 7 degrees, as I said, in Boston, and about 15 here in New York. Very cold. Messina, New York is 22 below. Again, the good story is some rain in California. Expect that rain to continue throughout the week for the most part. Some gale flags are flying off the Southern California coast. That'll translate to up to a foot of snow in the Sierra Nevada range, and also some snow around the Great Lakes today. The northern tier states, but basically the Great Lakes will get the brunt of it, and that won't be that much, 3 or 4 inches. The big story here in the east is cold. Even Miami's about 55 this morning. That's chilly. Here's what's happening in your world even as we speak.
Snow should be ending with less than an inch of accumulation total. It's going to be sloppy going into work this morning, but still not a whole lot of snow to deal with. Chance of snow mixed with rain throughout the day today, but look at our high temperature right at 40 degrees.
All for right now. Here's Brian.
All right, Willie, thanks. Coming up, the first of our series of talks with Democratic presidential candidates, starting with former Governor Jerry Brown. We'll get to that after this.
This year, my buddies the mail carriers are helping Hallmark make you a hero. Just give your Valentine Classic Sweets. It's an exclusive collection of the finest chocolates. Then a few weeks later, Hallmark mails your Valentine a second box of chocolates. All for just $3.95 with any Hallmark card purchase at participating stores. So your Valentine feels special and you feel like a hero. Thanks to your dedicated mail carrier. Oh, and Hallmark. This year, go to Hallmark and give twice the love.
How lazy am I? I taught Barney here to do everything for me. In fact, I'm so lazy. When I heard MCI's friends and family plan could save me an extra 20% every time I called someone in my friends and family circle, I didn't switch. And if that's not lazy enough, when MCI said that they're starting to give $20 in free long distance if you join MCI and friends and family, I still stuck with AT&T. Well, thankfully, Barney didn't. So, he picked up the phone. I had to dial a number. In no time, we had MCI. No hassles, no restrictions. So I can call anytime I want. I gotta admit, passing up an extra 20% savings is a bit crazy. Pass up $20 in free phone calls? No one can be that lazy.
When he first declared his presidential candidacy, Jerry Brown, the former governor of California, led all the other Democrats in the polls. That came partly from name recognition. Unfortunately, the name that many people thought of was his nickname, Governor Moonbeam. He had that and other obstacles to overcome on the campaign trail as his standing in the polls has slipped dramatically. In this last week before the New Hampshire primary, we'll be talking to all the Democratic candidates, beginning this morning with Governor Brown, who is at our affiliate WBZ-TV in Boston. Governor Brown, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. I know that Mike Royko, I'm having trouble speaking this morning, the columnist who gave you that nickname, has said that it was unfair and outdated. I know you've kidded around about it on the campaign trail, but do you think that realistically you've been able to get past that image in New Hampshire?
Well, as a matter of fact, yes. The polls recently now show me moving ahead of Harkin and almost tied with Kerry. And while I don't put a lot of stock in these things, there is movement out there. The crowds are getting bigger. And yeah, I carry that Moonbeam label, but you know, it started with Alexander Graham Bell when he invented fiber optics. It's a sign of creativity. I wanted a state satellite. We put California in the forefront of wind turbine energy that now supplies enough electricity for over 1 million homes. So at the beginning, people were skeptical, but when you look at the facts and the record in California, where we created over 2 million jobs, and where we took a state which was 3rd highest in taxes and took it down to 24th in taxes, I think people, as they see it, will start coming around to a candidacy and a cause that is challenging what I call the corrupt status quo that has abandoned the American people.
In fact, Governor Brown, I know that you say that money is basically the root of all political evil, and you refuse campaign contributions over $100. How do you have that stand and yet explain to voters that as your last political job as chairman of the California Democratic Party, it was your responsibility to raise millions of dollars for Democratic candidates?
Well, because that was a job of building an institution called a party, not having a candidate go to big major contributors and ask them for money in return for favors. But beyond that, I can tell you, I've been around this business 20 years. The money has gotten worse. It is corrupting this country, and those who are out of work, those who are sensing the fact that government has forgotten about them, they ought to think about the fact that the campaigns are being financed by a very narrow group of people who put up millions of dollars to take care of themselves. My campaign is about overcoming that by giving the American people a chance to control and own this campaign through small donations. It is a very radical challenge to a system that's stagnant, it's in gridlock, and this is the way that I see that we can break it open.
Governor, as chairman of the California Democratic Party, though, didn't you push to have those upper limits removed? And if so, how do you explain the about face?
Well, no, it's not that at all. As a matter of fact, I started out as a political reformer and put in limits to campaign spending, and it was the U.S. Supreme Court that overturned that. As the leader of the California Democratic Party, what I did was to go to court and contest a limitation on the ability of the party to send out mailings to its own 5 million members. We were limited so that we could only send out about 50,000 letters because of the limit, and we needed to send out 5 million. But that's all really beside the point. The key in this campaign is giving people a choice. And of all the candidates running, this is the only candidacy that has forsworn the corrupt money that is controlling this country and destroying jobs as we speak.
Other than the main message, which you seem to impart, that the system stinks, what would you describe? What would you describe as the cornerstone of your campaign in a nutshell, other than the system stinks?
A nutshell. I'll give it to you in a nutshell. It's reform. Reform of the tax code by stripping away almost all federal taxes and replacing them with a flat 13% tax across the board, and that can be done. A reform of the health care system so that we have a single payer and cover every American citizen as they've done in other countries. Reform of the huge energy waste that is destroying not only our health and our environment, but our capacity to build jobs. And as in California, where we did create almost 1 out of every 4 American jobs during that 8-year period, I would say that we can do the same thing now if we invest in high-speed trains and fuel-efficient cars and retrofitting buildings and replacing engines and motors and lighting, which is so inefficient and costing hundreds of billions of dollars that we could save by plowing that into the American economy and getting off the addiction of foreign oil. And we can do that. I know we can. We started it in California, and I want to finish it for the whole country.
In recent days, you've been attacking the apparent frontrunner, Bill Clinton, fairly aggressively. Do you think these attacks are warranted, or do you think they tarnish the image of the party in general?
Well, you know, I've been trying to give people a real choice, and I've pointed out that Governor Clinton, as governor, has not done most of the things that he's now proposing for the country. And because people have raised questions just about who am I, I've said, look at California, look at Arkansas, see the difference in terms of environment, jobs, renewable energy, apprenticeship, civilian conservation corps. It's all out there.
And you're taking credit for all those things?
I'm laying out a record, and people will point out, well, you didn't do this. Well, I say, well, look at the whole record. We did what I would say is the most creative, innovative period that I know of in state government. And we brought in people of all walks of life, and it became a time where people were excited, there was innovation, and people did things. And I would say if you look around now, what is missing at the highest levels of government is a sense of creativity and innovation and honesty. And I know that in my campaign, we do make the incumbents feel nervous, but there's a reason why America is slipping back. There's a reason why people are suffering.
Governor.
And I would say the reason for that is we've not opened our heart and we've not opened our imagination to what the American country really can be.
Governor Jerry Brown, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
In the upcoming days, we'll be talking to all the Democratic candidates. Tomorrow, Tom Harkin. Now here's Bryant.
Katie, in spite of the ways and policies of former Governor Brown, a lot of critics see the field of major primary candidates as too bland, too cautious, and too much like one another. There are a whole lot of other choices out there, though, candidates who are asking for votes in New Hampshire, but not getting much attention. NBC's Keith Morrison has a report.
Don't take this election lightly. Honesty and integrity should be the campaign issue.
It cruises up and down the hills of New Hampshire, blaring away, somebody trying to say something. And your first reaction is, what the heck is that?
It's a surveillance truck used by the federal tax and gun department of the Treasury.
No, not the truck, though that's interesting enough. What you really wonder is, who is this guy? What's he up to?
My name is Dick Bosa. I'm from Berlin, New Hampshire. I'm a candidate for president on the Republican Party.
And you realize, chugging along, listening to the pitch, this guy's really serious. He's running for president. What, is he crazy?
The big message.
But if he is, then so are almost 100 other people, ramming around New Hampshire, chasing some dream everybody knows can't come true. Or has it already?
Given how fluid this campaign is, the so-called minor candidates, even though they don't distinguish us one from the other, may come in second in the state.
And pretty soon you realize this parade of fringe candidates is about the most interesting thing going on in New Hampshire. I mean, where else can you find politicians who are actually candid and funny?
You know, Betty Ford built a center, the Betty Ford Center, to help people that are on drugs. Then Nancy Reagan comes along and says, just say no. I guess Betty Ford wasted her time. You know? That's what they do when they don't care about people in this country. It's like, you're homeless? Oh, just say camping.
Actually, you begin to wish people could get a better look at some of the fringe campaigners here. If you were around to watch Eugene McCarthy's big happy rallies back in 1968, how do you feel when you see that grand old man on college campuses this time?
Hello.
He still has so much to say. But there was this conflicting hockey game.
I thought it was bad when I ran as an independent in '76. We expected the two parties to be against you. It's worse to be in a party and to try to have an impact different from what they want.
And the press could, if it cared, find out something about Lenora Fulani. Hardly a nobody.
I love you.
No, you give me a hug.
I raised $1 million from over 60,000 Americans who, by virtue of writing a check for me, have called for broader choices in this campaign. I've met their criteria. They just keep changing it because they don't want ordinary people and ordinary candidates to participate.
Mind you, Ralph Nader's running too, and they've shut him out just as effectively. Of course, he's used to that sort of treatment, and frankly, that's a good part of the reason why he's here.
The dynamic is overwhelmingly in the direction of the candidates, their handlers, their PR people, and their backers. The problem with that format is it doesn't leave much role for citizens to shape the presidential campaign.
It's actually the big two parties that decide where the action is here. And it's not to say all this isn't very impressive. But whatever happened to that hoary old notion that there was some real democracy at play here?
While you're taught and I'm taught, when I was in school, the nun would say, "Would you like to be president?" I said, "Yes." But it's not true. You can't be president.
The other day, our Sam Hurst took a run over to the headquarters of the Dark Horse campaign. And what's that?
Come over here,
A bunch of these little candidates who couldn't get the time of day from the party brass or the media decided to pool their resources.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our press conference. This is...
And sure enough, there was our Sam, only reporter in the place. But he got to talk to some fascinating people, like the man who runs the Fisher Pen Company. Is he serious? He sure is.
This is it's an act of desperation. I'd give my life and everything I know if I could turn this country around. I know there is a better way to govern ourselves.
So they come here all pumped up with passion for their country, and they hit this invisible wall, like you can't get there from here, like you're crazy for trying.
It's easier to organize a political movement that will have some impact in Russia today than it is in this country. You can organize, but you don't have any drive shaft. You're not hooked up.
Too bad. The most colorful show in town, and the country can't even get a ticket. For today, Keith Morrison, NBC News.
Moving past 8:22 on this Monday morning. We're back in a moment with more on Today, right after this.
We're offering a $1,000 reward to anyone apprehending a box of Raisin Nut brand cereal containing wimpy regular raisins posing as Raisin Nuts. Yes, somehow puny ordinary raisins have passed themselves off as Raisin Nuts and gotten into 100 boxes of Raisin Nut brand. They're out there and they're easy to spot because they're nothing like the plump, juicy raisins you'd expect in Raisin Nut brand cereal.